Hey everyone, it's raining today, so not a really good day for flying, so I'm stuck indoors. So what I thought I'd do is, tell you a bit about myself. I started flying quadcopters back in beginning of March 2013, and my very first one was one of these. This is a little ladybird quadcopter, and this is really good to start off on. Fits in your palm of your hand and you can fly it around inside. Now I remember when I got it, I could fly it forward, left, right, forward and back. But when I orientated it towards myself, you think I could fly it towards myself? No way. But of course now that's history. So after crashing this a zillion times, this little ladybird, I moved on and I got one of these. This is what all started all these drones off, as they call them. This is a Phantom 1. Now I got this in just after the Ladybird back in March 2013, and it was back before gimbals were around. So I got this little thing and I started flying it around, and then I converted it to 4S, and then I tried a few gimbals and ended up with this Tarot gimbal, and it worked pretty good. But after a while, it only flew for like 5 minutes, so I thought, this is no good. So after a while I got rid of that and I moved on. And then, I'll just find it here, and then I saw these guys flying these things around with video goggles. This was a QAV 250 I got from the States, and I got this the start of 2014. And I got it and I flew it, and 3 weeks later I had a little crash and I broke it. So I went, rubbish. So then I had a good idea, and by sheer luck, I hooked up with a guy in America who was a graphic designer, and through about 4 or 5 different prototypes, we ended up with this. This is a full custom design made out of G10, and of course it's got 2 cameras in it. You can fly it with video goggles using this little CCD camera, and you got this little Mobius on top, it's a CMOS camera, so you can fly that around. It's got a flight controller in there. It's Open Pilot or Libri Pilot, and it's all open source software. And it's got a video TX, and that aerial there transmits back to my goggles. I got an old pair of goggles here somewhere for those that don't know what goggles are. There you go. That's one pair I got. So I designed this and I flew it, and it worked out pretty good. The thing I mainly liked about it was the protection from the camera, for the cameras there in a crash. And in fact, these little standoffs, we actually got them custom made in China. And these are 12mm carbon fiber booms. These are off the shelf alloy mounts for the boom, so it's very, very strong. So that was my little Quaddy 250 I called. So then from that, I thought, we need one for a GoPro. So I designed this one. So it's a little bit bigger, whereas this little 250. So there's the 250 and there's the 300 for the GoPro. So it's a little bit bigger. It's got more powerful motors, and basically it's the G10 the same, but the GoPro goes in there, so it's nice and protected again. So this was the Quaddy 300, and I put a 4S 4250 on the back, and yeah, she hooks along this little baby. So that was my Quaddy 300 I built. So I was just waiting. Then they brought out the Phantom 2, and I thought, maybe I should get one of them, and I went, nah, I'll just keep waiting till they perfect their technology a bit better. So then I went, okay, I want to build a hexacopter. So I designed this and built this. And this is a hexacopter, and if you've never flown a hexacopter, you just don't realize how stable they are, even in the strong wind. I'll fly this in any kind of wind condition. It's amazing. So it's got 6 motors, and it's got speed controllers underneath there. Once again, it's got an open source flight controller. It's got a little video TX in there that talks back to my radio. It tells you my things like voltage and my signal strength. And of course, when you fly these things, unlike these little Phantoms, which basically, well, they fly themselves, This, when you fly these things, you are the pilot because you're flying in manual mode. although you can fly them in auto level mode. That is, if you let go of the sticks, it'll kind of auto level. But to get the real seat of your pants flying like a fighter pilot, you need to fly in what's called rate or manual mode. And so what that will mean is when you push the stick, it'll go like that, and if you let go of the stick, it just stays there. And the only way it'll come back level is if you bring it back. So awesome performance, and you can of course do rolls, and you can do forward flips and back flips. So this was the hexacopter that I built for the GoPro, all those other Chinese cameras. And then from that I thought, well, you know what, if I'm flying over the rainforest and I lose my video signal or the ocean, it's gone. Unlike the Phantoms now, you can push a button, it'll come back. So what I did was, same thing, I built another one. This is my second hexacopter. It's called the Hexi 350, by the way. And I've got a GPS on there, so at least if I'm flying around, I'm doing loops and rolls and whatnot, if I lose video signal or radio signal, it'll come back to me. Or if I'm flying around and I'm lose my video signal, I can flick a switch and it'll come back to me, and then once I see it, I'm nice and close, I can then take over and land it. So if you've never flown multi-rotors with video goggles in manual mode, you're missing out on a heap of fun. I mean, the Phantoms are great for getting awesome images and video, and they're super easy to fly straight out of the box, but these babies, if you want to become a real pilot, these are the things that you need to fly. So I've got another one over here. This one here, I put actually a gimbal on it, but I just find when I'm flying these things, it's pretty hard not to do a roll or a flip, and of course with a gimbal you can't do stuff like that. So of course, moving on from that, I then got the, oh no, there was one more. I've got one over here. This was a Scarab from Multi-Wee-Copter in Australia. And I put a gimbal on that, and this was pretty cool. But the thing with this is, one little crash, you'd break something, and also you had to had big props, so you had to balance the motors and whatnot. So I flew that for a little while, and then got rid of that. Well, I pulled it apart and got all the bits out of it. And then I made another one of these things, and I flew that. I was flying line of sight, just fanging around, and I smashed it. And I had one of these 4-in-1 ESCs, and yet they didn't last long either. So got that, and then I made another little one. This is a tiny little one for the GoPro again on an angle, and it's still in prototype mode, but this is just another small version that you fly with the video goggles. And then I had another one. This one here was what they call the TBS Disco, so I had that. But once again, just doesn't give you the performance like the small minis and the hexacopter. So, and this had a NASA flight controller in it too. So with a NASA flight controller, it's auto level. It keeps everything level for you, and you can fly it in manual mode. But you know, you do a roll, and instead of going like that real quick, it's kind of like that. It's too slow. You can't fly. You can't be a real pilot flying with a NASA flight controller. You need to have a flight controller which is called like a NAS 32 or a Open Pilot Revo or CC3D or something similar like that. Or Open Pilot's kind of like dying now, but Libri Pilot is the place to go. And then from that, of course, I thought, you know what? They brought out the Phantom 3, and I thought, you know what? It's time for me to give the Phantoms another go. And I tell you what, I've done over 100 flights with this thing, and it hasn't missed a beat. And you know, they've got their little gimbal on there now, and you can take photos, and it's just so easy to fly and get really good footage. And the other thing is, you've got a button on the controller, and if you lose sight of it or something, you can push a button and it'll come and land. So it's very easy to fly, but perfect to get those beautiful video or photo shots. It's so easy to fly, I call it cappuccino flying, because you can literally sit there and have a sip of your cappuccino while you're flying along. But DJI have done a really good job of this. I was a bit skeptical of getting one, because when I had this one, it's got the old NASA controller in it. I'll see if I can open it up. I can't even open it up. Well, there you go, you can see in there. It's got the old Nuzzer controller in there. You know, I used to fly this even in ADI mode, and it done some crazy things on me. It would fly away and hit trees and whatnot. So I just didn't trust the flight controllers in DJI stuff, but they've certainly lifted their game with this baby. So this is what I use to get beautiful footage. But for seat of your pants flying, I just love these. You put the video goggles on, and you know, you can take it up and do death spirals and all kinds of crazy stuff. So that's it. So if you're going to get into all this multi-rotor stuff, I would, or quadcopters, I would get one of these little babies first, because that shows you how to fly it in line of sight. And you can even do flips and rolls on these little things, but buy lots of spare props kind of thing. But you know, if you go out and buy one of these, well, you know, you don't really fly these things. You just more like you push them around in the air. And you can't even put them in manual mode. You can put them in ADI mode, which means if you push the stick, it only goes to that far, and if you let go of the stick, it just auto levels again, kind of thing. So, and if you let go of the throttle, it just hovers there. So very easy to fly. Whereas, you know, if you're flying something like the Hexacopter here, with a true pilot's flight controller, if you push the sticks, it'll go there. But if you push the sticks even further, it'll go there, or it'll go there, or it'll do a complete circle. And the only way it'll come back is if you pull the sticks back. So if you do a roll, or you're up high and you do a roll and you get yourself disorientated, you can't let go of the sticks because it will crash. You have to flip it around and take control. So when I want seat of your pants flying, these are the things that I fly. But if I just want to get some nice images, I use the cappuccino flyer kind of thing. So if you think you're good at flying these things, get into these things and you'll be like, oh my God. But be warned, it's very addictive.